Oh, I wanted to talk about the book I'm currently listening to before I head in the house. It is Bitter and Sweet by Rhonda McKnight. Y'all, the setting of the book is present day, along with, it's a dual timeline, 1915. And it's telling the story of Tabitha Cooper's family and how they got to the point where they now have a restaurant. And the descendants in present day, which is Sabrina, I think her name is either Mariah or Jasmine. There are two sisters. Their grandmother and grandpa has been running the restaurant, but they're older now and they want to retire. Grandpa's sick, and so they're calling on the girls to help save the restaurant. And I am at the part where Tabitha is meeting a gentleman, y'all, and my heart is like, I can't take it. I don't know. Lord, I just hope it's all right. So just read it. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Shamika, and my channel's name is Uncommonly Queen, where we talk about books, health and wellness, productivity, and everything in between. Today I wanted to bring you guys a review of a book that I recently listened to on Audible, and that will be Bitter and Sweet by Rhonda McKnight. I thought I haven't really done a review on my channel, but I think this is one of the 5-star reads that I've read this year, and I would like to share with everybody in case they're looking for a 5-star read to add to their shelves. Now, Rhonda McKnight I was introduced to Rhonda McKnight as an author last year when I read a thing about home. It is said the reason that I read the book is I was looking for a book to listen to while I worked. And the thing about home is set in the low country of South Carolina, and that is where I'm from. So the town that the book is set in is approximately an hour, 2 hours away from me. So I was really familiar with the area, and then the synopsis of the book really intrigued me. It was a dual timeline story about a woman who an influencer whose life was falling apart online. So she kind of leaves everything behind and goes. She's living in New York at the time. She leaves everything behind, and she comes down south to South Carolina to find her father's side of the family, because she does not know them at all. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to give too much of the story away. But it is a dual timeline, so we get her story and then her great grandparents' story, and how the family kind of became what they are in present day. So it was a beautiful story of basically family, the love between a grandmother and a granddaughter, like the trauma of not knowing your father, your father passing before you were born. And then it speaks on herbalism and the skills our great grandparents had, master building, the things that they did to survive, right out of slavery, as they were building their lives. And so it is a very interesting story. It's a sweet story. It is a breath of fresh air type of story. So it was so heartwarming that I couldn't wait for the second book. And when I heard that the second book was coming out, I wanted to pick it up from my local Barnes & Noble, but when I went in to get it, they did not have it on the shelf. because Rhonda was supposed to come and do a book signing, but she had to postpone. So I just never was able to get back into Barnes to get it. So I listened to it on Audible. Now I listened to a thing about home on Audible also, which probably made me love it even more because the narrator's voice and the slight southern drawl that she has, it's kind of like a slight if you're familiar with the area in South Carolina, like, you know, and you're familiar with the Geechee Gullah people, you know that the accent that they have, the closer you get inland or you move from the coast or the sea islands, the further you move in, the lighter the accent gets. So it gets really heavy on the coast, like in the towns closer to the coast is really heavy and thick. The closer you move in, the accent kind of fades a little bit. So the narrator's accent is sort of like that, like you can hear it, but it's clear. You can hear the Gullah Geechee the accent, but it's not so strong to it turns you off of the book. But this story, Bitter and Sweet, is about Tabby, and Tabby's life back in 1915, and her great-great-granddaughter's lives in present day, which would be Mariah and Sabrina. Now, the themes of the book, there's grief, there's like the relationship between sisters, like troubled or broken relationships between sisters, broken marriage, there is shame, and like women having to survive. So those are themes of the story. And it sets place, like I said, in 1915. It's also a dual timeline, 1915 and present day. So it's Tabitha's story on how she basically navigates coming into womanhood, the mistakes she makes, and how she kind of corrects those mistakes. Her story, she's the bitter part of the story. Like she's born in bitterness. And if you ever read the Prayer of Jabez, his name, I think, means sorrow. So he was born in sorrow. It's sort of like that prayer. If you ever read it, it's in the Bible. It's called the Prayer of Jabez. His name is Jabez, and he's born. He gives his mother pain, or his name is Pain. It's either pain or sorrow, something like that. And he prays to God and asks God to, let his name not be his life, basically. And so Tabitha's life, all her life, her family has been calling her bitter. Her family literally has been calling her bitter. And so it's kind of like that's what her life became through various circumstances. And so we see her kind of go through that and then turn out of that. That was her story. Is such a story of redemption. And then we see the sisters, Sabrina and Mariah, as they try to save the restaurant that Tabby establishes back in 1915 in present day. And so we see them and their relationship and how it starts and the bitterness that plagues them and how they overcome that. So it is such a beautiful story. It's such a heartwarming story. You will definitely gain something from this story, and I think I ran through every emotion in this story. I was perplexed. I believe I cried. I was on the edge of my seat. It had a touch of a touch of romance. There was a touch of, like, I don't want to say it was a mystery, but kind of like a thrill, like kind of a little bit of a thrill going on in there. And there was a little bit of mystery because we're trying to figure out like what happens with Tabby's father. So there is a bit of mystery in it, but it's not so much of a mystery that if you take it out of the book wouldn't still be good. Like, there's a bit of a mystery that kind of pushes you along in the undercurrent of mystery. There's an undercurrent of romance, and then sitting on top is the relationship between Sabrina and Mariah, and how they're going to navigate saving the restaurant. And then there's Tabby's story on how she's going to navigate coming back or living through her shame. So such a beautiful story. If you're struggling with shame, this is a story for you. If you're a Christian reader, or if you're a Christian girly and you're looking for a book that really that's safe to read for you, if you don't want spice, it doesn't. I would say if it has I don't even know about a half a pepper. I don't want even to say a half a pepper of spice. It is like lightly, like it's lightly spiced. It is also realistic, like the things that happen in the book, the way they talk about their relationship with God, and like how they've grown into their relationship is very realistic. It's not like overly religious. It's not like, it's natural on how a relationship with the father would be nurtured and grown, and how you would grow in that from a child, how you would kind of rediscover God if you grew up in the church and you've been in the church from a child and you kind of leaned on tradition, and then you moved on to being in a relationship, is how you kind of have to rediscover him in your own light, in your own way. There's grief, heavy in the like, it talks about some really key issues, and I think that everybody can find something in this book. So definitely check it out on Audible. It's such a beautiful narration of the story. I definitely will be picking up the copies of those two books from my library, because I definitely will want to read them later, maybe next year sometime. And I hope and pray that she comes out with another book. So Rhonda, if you hear me, I think you should bring These Two Worlds, A Thing About Home with Casey, and Bitter and Sweet together, and we do kind of like a wrap up that way in a third book. That would be beautiful. I would love that. But even if you come out with a whole new story, I can't wait to see what you come up with, because the historical story you came up with in A Thing About Home, and then Bitter and Sweet, and then how the titles just sum up the books. It's beautiful. So guys, I recommend Bitter and Sweet to you, and I hope you pick it up. Oh, I wanted to talk about the book I'm currently listening to before I head in the house. It is Bitter and Sweet by Rhonda McKnight. Y'all, the setting of the book is present day, along with, it's a dual timeline, 1915, and it's telling the story of Tabitha Cooper's family and how they got to the point where they now have a restaurant. And the descendants in present day, which is Sabrina I think her name is either Mariah or Jasmine. There are two sisters. Their grandmother and grandpa has been running the restaurant, but they're older now. And they want to retire. Grandpa's sick. And so they're calling on the girls to help save the restaurant. And I am at the part where Tabitha is meeting a gentleman, y'all, and my heart is like, I can't take it. I don't know. Lord, I just hope it's all right. So just read it.